trees in the backwoods night. Red lights cutting through the pine in flight. Bigfoot stomping with his Yuengling beer. Whispers of tales that ain't too clear. UFOs buzzing solo through the haze. Howling banshees set the forest ablaze. Jersey devil howls, drink rays to the sky. Drunken cryptids party until the morning's night.
To good times.
Raise your glasses to the mysteries divine. It's showtime. Let the
Hello, Uzbekistan. Sorry, I had to say that because apparently we're getting some good streams coming out of Uzbekistan. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Drunken Cryptids. For those of us listening all the way over there in Uzbekistan, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. If I'm not, go ahead and blame Tommy. I do. So, but make sure you guys give a check out blademedia.com. Thank you, Dylan, for all the hard work. That's BLAYED media.com. And of course, you know, we do have the Arkansas Cryptid Fest coming this June here in North Little Rock, June 6th of 2026. That's right. We're going to storm North Little Rock with a whole bunch of wonderful cryptid encounters, research, wonderful speakers, you guys. Todd Neese, Miss Betsy, is Kulowski. I screw that up every time. Betsy, I'm so sorry. Check her episode out. You can get her name. But Miss Betsy is wonderful. Justin and Jay from Cryptids of Corn. Of course, Rod Nichols out of San Antonio. And Michael Cook, who was featured on These Woods Are Haunted. It's a creepy episode. And it's also a great episode that we did with him. So these are the VIP speakers. The tickets are for sale in the Eventbrite link down below. VIP does get you dinner, a little swag bag, a whole bunch of fun stuff. There'll be plenty of vendors. Other speakers are going to be there. My good friends, Show Me the Spirits, Miss Monsters and Mullets, the Cryptid Podcast, and Nevermore Hollows. These guys are great shows. If you guys don't, listen to me, make sure you check them out as well. They're great friends of the show, and they've been good friends to me personally since everything started. But speaking of friends, we'll get to him in just a second because he's coming back on for his part 2 finally. We had some technical difficulties last week. Everybody was snowed in, so everybody's using their phones and data and watching Netflix and all the other fun stuff. So we weren't able to get it done, but we are today. And so you're looking great, by the way. A lot better. I'm not gonna lie. I like the skeleton with the hat in the background.
That's that skeleton head in the background with the hat on it is my own version. I am a member of the Moonshine Militia because I think I told you once before that I'm friends with a lot of the people that are on Moonshiners and Master Distiller and all that. And we go to North Carolina every year to the Hillbilly Gym in Maggie Valley. And so there's a group of Moonshiners. A lot of them have been on the show. A lot of them have been on either Master Distillers or the Moonshiners. They all got together and formed a group and named it the Moonshine Militia. So me and my dad last summer, we're out there and they said, hey, you need to sign our banner. We're like, we're not members of the militia. We just hang out with you guys. There goes, sign the banner. So they made us official members.
How cool is that?
Oh, yeah.
Well, in case you don't recognize the voice, this is Joe. This time he's not freezing out there in Falk.
Right.
So he is we were freezing last week. I will tell you that in the Arkansas, Arctic blast that we were able to get. But before we continue on, guys, we do have the Patreon. Check it out. See what cheer works best for you. Buy me a coffee. I love my coffee. So by all means, if you want to help support the show, and of course, helping to support the show is by liking and sharing. If you can't donate any money, which I understand completely, single dad, retired, I understand, go ahead and just like and share. That's the best way to support the show. And I appreciate all the support out there. I do see you guys. Like I said, Uzbekistan. How cool is that? Uzbekistan. So, and of course, you guys, if you've had an encounter and you want to come on the show, including from Uzbekistan, we'd love to have you, especially Australia, any of our foreigners. I would love to have somebody outside. If you want to, reach out to me. We can make a time work. we'll get together. So make sure you reach out, talk to me, and we'll get you on the show. People want to hear your encounter. I can promise you that. So, but Joe, man, welcome back. I'm excited to have you back on. I felt so bad for you last time because I knew you were cold and I wanted to keep going on with everything, but I was just like, let the guy just settle down and warm up and we'll go from there. But you also mentioned that you do a lot. You started like your own paranormal, group and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. My group is called Western Arkansas Paranormal. I hate the fact that the initials, whichever a lot of people go by, remind you of a different song. But so I've started adding research and investigations at the end of it, just to
Don't do that when I'm taking a drink.
That's right. So yeah, Nicki Minaj would be proud.
She would be.
But at any rate, yeah, I've been investigating the paranormal since I was 15. I'm 57 now, so 42 odd years. Started out, like I said, when I was 15, Hans Holzer style with the portable tape deck and the paper and pencil and, just going, and anything sounded odd or looked odd, we'd run after it and check it out and ask a bunch of questions and see if anything came up on the recording after. And I'll tell you, even back then with just a regular old portable cassette recorder, I did get some EVPs. Unfortunately, those tapes are long gone, but it got the bug, so to speak.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I did the same thing. I didn't know too much about EVPs. I was in 8th grade. I was in my dad's basement. And me and like one of the neighborhood kids, I'd like, I think this house is haunted. Let's see if we can hear something. And I set my old tape recorder and we heard something. And looking back, it could have been a jet.
Right.
Because Plain City's right there at the flight path of Hill Air Force Base. So it could have been a jet.
Hey, but it gets your mind open to it. It gets you excited about it. So it makes you want to research further. And for a lot of people, that's how they got their start, doing it the same way, either that or they had a personal experience that just really just blew their mind and they couldn't figure it out. So that's what got them interested in the paranormal.
Yeah, same thing as me. I grew up in a haunted house and everything. And that, definitely, changes your perspective on certain things. I do want to pull up though real quick. Because you did have, I want to say a couple, I just want to make sure I'm doing this right. Where are you at? Hang on, let's turn the volume up. That's the intro. Okay, so there was a couple of comments that were on here about your episode that just dropped the other day.
Mhm.
Ash, a great fan of the show. He's kind of up in your part of the country, actually.
Mhm.
He was blown away by the pictures that you had. Steamboat, good capture is what he said. Then he came back on again and said, wow, that's awesome. Great evidence. I'm in the Atlanta area, just outside town. And if you would like to compare and study each other's history with the creatures, we might be able to understand more than all my investigating in Southwest Arkansas and around the Lake Wright, Patman? Around Lake
Patman, yeah.
Mhm. Okay, so you know where that's at? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And let's see here. Then also, do you have to be outside to get a good signal too?
Uh,
All right, let's see here. Yeah, so Steamboat comment a lot, bear tracks and the soon to be, so he's quoting on times on here from, the show.
mhm.
But what do you think? So he says he's been out around, Lake Wright Patman. What do you know about that area?
Lake Wright Patman is actually formed from a section of the Sulphur River that's been dammed up because of the lake to build by the Corps of Engineers. I can't say dates of how it's been there for at least since the 40s. So I'm assuming it's been there, at least that long.
Okay.
Right, Patman is it's a really nice area, really nice lake. There are some pretty wild areas out there. Um, did he mention something about bear tracks or something? Is what you said?
That was when we were talking during the episode about tracks.
Yeah.
And how people will be like, "Oh, those are bear tracks,"
Well,
and yeah,
out in the field, it's easy to tell the difference between a bear track and a large human-like footprint. The bear track, when they step, their rear foot will step in almost the same exact place as their front paw. So a lot of times there will be in the center of that print, if it looks like a Bigfoot print, there'll be some telltale signs from the claws on the front foot. Also, you don't very seldom see sharp claws on a Sasquatch footprint. You know, their toenails and a lot of their anatomy is shaped the same as ours, just on a larger scale.
Yeah.
You can also identify.
No, I'm 100% with you.
Yeah, you can also identify the mid-tarsal break on a Bigfoot print compared to there wouldn't be one if it was a bear print, because the double step will obliterate or be in that position where the mid-tarsal break would be. That's one of the things I had the fortunate chance of meeting Dr. Meldrum, Jeffrey Meldrum, about less than 2 months before he passed away. I met him up in Gatlinburg at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference. He was speaking there, and that was actually his last speaking engagement. Or speaking engagement, meet and greet, however you want to look at it. So I got his latest book signed, personalized to me, and also got a little postcard size picture that he signed for me. Got those with the picture of he and I together in a frame on the wall. You know, so it was a pleasure meeting him. He was very insightful. Came at everything with the scientific mind. You know, so, and he explained a lot of things to me that, you know, I was kind of on the fence about, but once I listened to what he talked about, especially concerning prints, then I knew which side I was going to fall off on, which is the side
Right.
of the Sasquatch, and researchers what they're saying.
Well, let me ask you a question. I'm going to share this with everybody real quick. So this is a picture I got up north of Heber Springs this past summer in our investigation area. And let me get your opinion before I tell you a little bit more about it. I think if you know, some of the audience already knows. So let me go ahead and click it real quick. Where'd you go? Let me get your opinion. Here we go. If you can see it right in here.
Yeah, I can see the outline of it in between. It's going left to right in between the tree roots.
Yep.
And it looks like the toes are pointing towards the curved one.
I was looking at Knuckles.
Oh, Knuckles! It's you got to remember I'm on the small phone screen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me zoom it out a little bit so you can see exactly how the tree is set. You see, we got our bucket right here to cast it.
Exactly.
So, and I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see the digits. It almost, you know.
Yeah, I see it. I see it now that it's a little bit closer. So that looks like maybe he was leaning over that root, that stump, and maybe had his knuckles on the ground like he was looking around at something, using that stump kind of as a rest when he had the other hand down on the soil.
Yeah, that's kind of how it looks to me, is kind of like this. You know what I mean? It was impressioned in right here. So, yeah, I just wanted to get your opinion on that one real quick.
Yeah, good find.
Well, it got lucky with, so right before we found that, it was me and Jacob and the property owner, Ray, and I call him Roy. So, you know, if I say Roy or Ray, he knows what I'm talking about. He'll call me different names too. Great one. Lisa and Ray are a great couple who are so open to us coming up and investigating everything out. They keep me updated. It's a very hot, active area. So, but he was showing us, he was giving us a tour of the property. It's the first time we went up there. We go down, we're on the neighbor's property now, and they had an old deer feeder set up still. Okay. And they had an old, trail cam. It was this little clearing, and we're kind of walking around. And I remember because there were these spiders everywhere, everywhere. I was just like, of course there are. And we're looking at the wood line, and we got growled at from the wood line. And this is like mid-morning.
Yeah.
And I remember going, we all heard that, right? So, yeah, you keep saying, I apologize. But we heard, the growl came out of the wood line, made the comment, we all heard that. And right after that, we had a little tree knock behind us. So we're in that stump for some reason. That clearing just stood out to me. So I just happened to walk over to it. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Right off the bat, nobody is this lucky going out right off the bat. And within an hour of being there, and there's a track.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Believe it or not, the first time that I went down to Fowl a couple of years ago, well, I mean, I've been in Fowl most of my whole life, but went down there actually to investigate. Was about a little over 2 years ago, working on 2.5 years now. And we was walking the woods in the area looking for a place to possibly, which I eventually did, set up game cams. And as I'm walking along, I just happened to look over to my right and down, and there was the remains of a print. It was really degraded. And so it was a really old print. I'd say maybe 3-4 weeks old. You can tell the weather had got to it and everything else, but it was definitely a print. And showed Doyle Holmes, who is the property owner down there, at most of my main research area. And he goes, man, he says, I see those all the time. And he said, you won't believe the activity that we have behind the house here in these woods. And that's what really got me piqued. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be my main area. And he started telling me some of his experiences. He's had multiple eyewitness seeing the creature himself. And he was on several TV shows. But back in 2004, he was paddling down in his canoe in Mercer Bayou, towards Mercer Bayou, that area down there. And he heard something splashing, and he was, just kind of cruising along, not making too much noise in that canoe, so it was hard to hear him. But he heard this water splashing, and he happened to look over, and sure enough, there was one that he was seeing from about the chest up behind a cypress tree, and it was looking down, and he'd hear the water splash, and at the same time that the creature moved. And what he was doing is he was kicking around the water, the ground underneath the water, the bottom, trying to stir up mussels or something, because he'd kick it, and get down and kind of reach around and find some mussels or whatever he could find. And so he said, according to Doyle, and I have to believe him 100%, I've known the man for 40-something years, that experience lasted almost 30 minutes, which is unheard of. He just kind of stayed in his canoe, stayed quiet, and just kind of floated and watched this creature for that period of time. And once the creature finally noticed him is when he took off. And Doyle said that was the moment that everything changed. He said, I was a skeptic about all this until that happened. He said, once that happened, he said, now I'm a firm believer. So
It's crazy.
Yeah. He's had some incredible experiences, and right up to near the back of his house. And he said that there's been some occasions where he feels like they were actually up near his back porch.
Wow. Well, so he mentioned mussels. What's funny about that is that's not the first encounter I've heard of Sasquatch digging, rooting around for mussels.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
it's a pretty easily accessible food source. I mean, and high in protein.
I was about to say they got to be. They must. I don't know much about them. I'm about to power Google. Let's see here. How high in protein are mussels? Well, actually, let's look at the benefits of eating mussels.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Let's see here, because they're eating it for a reason.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Are they a delicacy to them? Are they like a treat or something? You know what I mean?
I think it's just more like a staple. I mean, you got to remember, they don't farm, they do hunt.
All right, here we go. All right, you're going to like this one. So mussels are a highly nutritious, low-calorie seafood, rich in protein, omega-3 fatty acids, and essential minerals like iron, zinc, and vitamin B12.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's
they support heart health, the immune system, improve cognitive function, and promote healthy skin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they're pretty much a superfood if you're an animal living out in the wild.
Wow. Okay. So, all right. A 3-ounce serving provides roughly 40% of the daily protein needs of an average person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So of course they got to multiply that size for that for the
Yeah.
time
I was
to
about
get
to
that
say, but
from.
you think about, yeah,
So I'm sure that they are constantly, looking for mussels. And we've come across areas even on the filming of Expedition X down there, the Beast of Boggy Creek. We found down there near the river copious amounts of mussel shells, and it couldn't have been just by pure coincidence. These things, it was like a mussel graveyard, shell graveyard. I mean, there was literally hundreds of them in one area, and then there wouldn't be any. Then you go down another 15, 20 foot, there'll be hundreds more. That's not the way that mussels will die and open up. They are scattered. They're not in a general area. So
that's crazy. We were going to talk about paranormal stuff, and we're still on Sasquatch. But you could just, I mean, you can definitely tell it's a passion that you and I have for,
yep.
these creatures,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So,
And
but that's pretty cool. So now for everybody out there as well, something new to pay attention to when you go out there. Because I do think there's more evidence that we don't see, that we do see, but we blow it off. Looking back, I remember now seeing areas too of shells, and I mean, and just kind of same thing. Is it the water? I mean, blowing it off could be, otters, whatever, snacking away, having a good time. But now, it's something more intriguing to, I don't know, research into. So if you've seen areas of these mussels and everything, folks, let us know.
yeah. And I'll
Drop a comment.
I'll give you a prime example that also during the filming of Expedition X, we had seen an area. Matter of fact, Doyle had pointed it out to Heather, and she was looking at it. And about that time, I found that degraded trackway that I think I mentioned on the last episode. And she had come running over. For some reason, they dropped that out. They cut that part, and then substituted Doyle's voice in talking about mussels. But at any rate, even Heather, she talked about it. She was on a podcast out of Australia just here recently, and she mentioned that trackway being found during the filming. So I know she was impressed with it. Matter of fact, when I saw her at the conference in Little Rock, the expo that you were at, you and I met at, uh, she signed a picture for me of her standing in front of the Falcon Patrol car that's got the legend on the logo, and she said, "Keep finding the evidence." That was what she stressed, and she kind of looked at me and smiled when she handed it to me, and I knew what she was referring to.
I love it.
Yeah, Heather's
I
sweet.
love it.
Heather's really a sweet lady, very knowledgeable. I think she's finally found her footing in the TV show. A lot of people weren't happy with Jess being taken on or leaving and Heather coming in, but I think Heather has found her footing and made it a much more enjoyable show.
No, I agree. I mean, I've I only had a chance to visit with her, I think, for maybe 90 seconds. I was busy. Well, you saw that.
Oh,
I mean, you were there. And she, I mean, everywhere she went, she had a little entourage following her around. I think I finally was able to pull her aside for about 90 seconds.
yeah.
And I was real quick to get my pitch in. Hey, I'm Matthew Orton. How are you? I run a podcast. I'm local here in Arkansas. We need to go ahead and get you on the show. She goes, okay, find me on Instagram and send me a message. But okay, I will. And that was it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And really, that's about the only social media that she communicates on. And I know she stays busy because there's her fan base and follows just went through the roof after being on the show. But she does. She'll answer within a reasonable time if she's not in the middle of filming.
Well, yeah, I sent her a message months ago, and I don't know if she hasn't responded back yet. And I'm not mad about it because I know she's busy. I'm not one of those guys like, she's not responding. I'm not. No. Like if I email somebody, talking about coming on the show or something, or send them a message, and I don't hear back, because I know there's probably 100 other messages in there.
Oh yeah.
And they're just random or creepy or whatnot.
Oh yeah, and if we got lost in the shuffle, I mean, those things. If you sent it that long ago, there's probably a couple thousand more on top of it. So it probably wouldn't hurt to send another one.
Yeah, I should. Yeah, I probably will. I don't like to bother people. I'm one of those guys. I don't like to bother them at all.
right.
So, but well, Joe, we'll keep doing this one. But let's talk about your WAP.
Yeah,
Sorry, I was
absolutely.
waiting for it.
It's
I was waiting for
the humidity around that thing is crazy.
it.
Sorry,
This is why we're not. This is why we're not drinking yet.
Yeah, exactly. We do it in the morning, so we'll behave.
Ah, it's all right. I got coffee and a cherry Coke in my other cup. So I got to pick up kids here in a couple hours.
Right.
All right. Let's talk about the WAP. So you're 15 years old. You were wanting to start experimenting. Let's get into it. Let's talk about some of the encounters and stuff you had.
Now let's backtrack a little bit further. What got me started at 15 to do that was when I finally got brave enough, to start checking out stuff that happened in my early childhood. Now there was a photo I sent you. Of a house. I don't know if you've got that.
Shoot, you know what? So that you mentioned it. Okay, I'm gonna go. You talk. I'm going to pull this up.
So the house in that photo was my grandparents' house out near Lake Tawakoni, Texas, which is down close to Grand Saline and Edgewood and all those parts of Texas down there. Near, another lake in that area is Lake Fork, which is one of the best bass fishing lakes in the world. But
okay, so is it the White House? The picture you sent me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hang on a second. All right, hang on. I love being able to do this. Okay, so we'll get ready to do this. All right, go ahead, talk.
Okay, so we were down there visiting at the time. My parents and I lived. My brother wasn't born yet. He's 5 years younger than me, so that's how I know I was about 5 years old. So you see the big long front porch on it there, and the darker window on the right-hand side of the picture as you're looking at it was a bedroom. And that was the bedroom that me and my mom stayed in, or I stayed in when we were down. I was just down there for however long visiting with them. To behind that, towards the back of the house, is the kitchen and dining room, which then goes towards the back door, go out of the house. So I'm playing back then. I don't know if you had one of these, Matt, or not, but the Evel Knievel stunt cycle toys.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I had one of those, and I was playing with that because the kitchen floor was linoleum, and there was plenty of spots for me to do it without running it off a coffee table and breaking something. So I'm playing with this thing, and out of the corner of my eye, I see somebody walk into the bedroom. And I think it's my mom. Who else would be walking into the bedroom? So I say, Mom, and I go in the bedroom, and there's nobody in there. And I immediately got up and walked in after I saw the figure go through the door. So I go in there, Mom, looking around. At that point, I'm shaking. I'm so scared. 5-year-old kids see something like that. Nobody's in there. Imagine, So I take off running to the living room, screaming for my mom and my grandpa and my grandmother. I get in there and they're like, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" I said, "Did you just come out of the bedroom?" No, I've been sitting here watching TV with Papa and Grandma. And it's like, somebody went in the bedroom and they're not there now. And my grandfather's like, "No, there ain't nobody else here." I said, please go look, begged him, tears rolling down my face. So he gets up and he goes, looks in there and he turns the light on and he looks around, looks under the bed, looks in the closet, everything that a grandfather or a father would do to make a child feel better. And it did. It made me feel better, but I was still so scared that I refused to sleep in that bedroom that night. So they made a pallet on the living room floor and my mom slept on the couch. And that's how scared I was after that first ever experience that I ever had.
That's crazy.
So life rolls on. I had a few other strange things happening, some shadow movements in my bedroom at the house I grew up in, which was later my grandfather on my dad's side's house, because we bought the house next door and moved from right next door, and my grandfather moved into that house. And, I'd see shadows moving, and it looked like somebody was walking and then backing up, walking towards me, then backing up, those types of things. Never said anything about it. Just thought, oh, it's, just my imagination. You start training yourself to not believe what you're seeing as a kid, and other people saying, oh, there's no such thing as that, your parents or whoever. So it ends up closing your mind off to the prospect of there being these types. So years later, rock and roll, after all that happens, I get to be 15 and we're living in Texarkana by this time. And I meet this guy who was a good friend when I was in junior high school, fixing to go into high school, named Scott Brown. And Scott was into all things sci-fi and paranormal and all that stuff. He's the one that turned me on to Doctor Who, for God's sake. He was that kind of kid. Listened to Kiss and loved sci-fi and paranormal. So he introduced me to a lot of first, but he was the one that convinced me that ghosts were real and we needed to go check it out. I said, let me think about it, And so rock on a couple months. I thought, there's an old cemetery on State Line Road in Texarkana. It's the oldest cemetery in town. And, I know there's some graves from way back when, in the late 1800s, whenever Texarkana was completely, first founded, there were graves there, and then it was later incorporated. But so I go out there with my tape recorder and my pencil and pad, and I hear some things, and couldn't figure out, or whatever. So I tell Scott about it. Scott's like, let's just go back. All right. So he said, ask your dad and mom if you can stay the night at my house, which was my dad and stepmom. And I'll ask my parents if it's okay. Of course, they were two college professors for the local college, Texarkana Community College, which is now part of the University of Texas. So they said, yeah. My parents said, yeah. So I go to stay the night at Scott's. About the time everybody went to bed, he's like, let's go to the cemetery. It's like, all right. So we snuck out, went to the cemetery, which was about maybe a mile or two walking distance, straight as a crow flies, cutting through yards and everything else to get there. So we get there and he's like, all right, you got the tape recorder? I'm like, yeah. He said, turn on the tape recorder and start recording. I'm going to ask questions, and then that way we can go back on this to the tape and compare the questions and the times to if we hear anything. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we do this, and then we come across this unmarked grave. And I'm like, man, that's weird. Why isn't there a headstone on this grave? It used to be one. You could see the face for the headstone, but the headstone was gone. He's like, man, I don't know. He's like, let me ask why. And he says, why is there not a headstone on this grave? Why can't we see what your name is? And the next thing I remember is he is slapping me in the face. I'm laying on the ground. He's slapping me on the face. And, wake up, are you okay? Did you fall? What's going on? I was like, I don't know what happened. He's like, all I know is I asked a question and you went down to the ground and was saying this name. And I was like, what was the name? And all I remember now is it was Rebecca. I can't remember the last name. But he's like, I'm going to check into this, And so he did some research, and there was a Rebecca buried in that area, which could have been or could not have been the grave that we were at. So that experience kind of convinced me that there was something to it. So over the years, I just gradually.
Well, let me back you up to this one real quick. Talking about the grave. So when he was asking, who, why don't we need to know your grave? He said you just dropped.
Yeah, he said I just dropped like a stone, and was on the ground, and he thought maybe something I'd got shot or something. I mean, he said you fell that quick. It was just like I asked a question and down you went, And
what do you remember about it?
I just remember standing there and him asking the question, and then the next thing I know, I'm looking up at him, slapping me across the face, saying, wake up, wake up. I don't remember anything that happened after the moment that he asked that question until he was slapping me in the face. Not
okay. So when he was looking up Rebecca, though, he said that there was a Rebecca buried in the area.
In that plot, it wasn't. Right. We don't know if it was that grave but that plot, as it's plotted out, all cemeteries are plotted out, go to plot A, plot B, whatever else. In that plot, in that section of the cemetery, there was a Rebecca buried there. And the only thing we can figure is that it was her, and she was trying so hard to communicate what her name was that it caused a disconnect in my brain. I'm not saying I'm psychic at all, but it caused a disconnect in my brain that just sent me to the ground. And
so did you find out why maybe her grave had been unmarked or anything?
we couldn't find out anything at that time. Of course, not many people are going to talk to a couple of 15-year-old kids about cemetery records. But years later, I went back and I thought, man, I'm just going to go check and see if anything's changed over there. And it was towards the back part of the cemetery near County Avenue, which is County Avenue and State Line are separated in that section by the cemetery. So I remember the general vicinity, and I'm walking through there about 2 or 3 years later. So I was 17, 18 years old, and with another friend of mine, and I'm like, man, this is that area I told you that story about. And he's like, no way. And he stopped all of a sudden. He goes, was it this old area by this old big tree? I'm like, yeah, I think that's right. Why? And he's like, look at the new headstone. And it said Rebecca on it. Rebecca, whatever her last name was now, I can't remember. And the dates were that somebody had put a new headstone on that grave. That's who it was. So. Crazy stuff.
Right. Yeah, sorry. I had questions. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And actually, to jump ahead, back when I was with Adrian and Tina in their group, we were at another house, and virtually the same thing happened to me there, except for I didn't say anything. That I just hit the ground, and they were standing over me, waking me up, and I don't remember anything like that. So that's twice that type of event has happened. Now, the unfortunate part about the last one with the RVPRI and Tina and Adrian and their group is that was not long after, either after or before. It was right around the same time that we had gone on a case that, severely changed a lot of people's lives. We have come to the conclusion, and Adrian has been told by people in the know that, based on what had happened, is that was a demonic. So it kind of leads me to wonder if what happened to me on that investigation is related to what happened to me when I was 15, because that opened me up, made me a little bit more sensitive to that type of activity. And so, for 5 years.
Why did they think, excuse me, why did they think it was demonic?
Just based on what the things that happened. There were some things that happened that just, it would blow your mind on that case. I don't want to go into too much detail on it. It wasn't my case. It was Tina and Adrian's and RVPRI's case. But the way it negatively affected so many people that was on that investigation, talking to people that are in the more studied on the demonology side of all things, the conclusion was made that it was more than likely a demonic situation in that house.
It's weird.
Yeah. Yep.
That is weird.
I still have bad flashbacks to that one. It was rough.
Well, I respect the fact that you want to talk too much about it due to somebody else's investigation.
Mhm.
I mean, are you able to tell us, your part of it, what happened with you?
Yeah.
Other than drop.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I won't tell you the location.
I get that 100%.
So there was a family in a nearby state that had some activities that Adrian had come in contact with the people through his work. Set up an investigation. We'd gone out. The stories they told about some of the activity and how it affected their deceased, I believe it was deceased father at this point, and how it changed him while he was still alive, how it made him a totally different person than the person he was prior. So over the course of about several months, his personality went from, Mr. Nice Guy to sorry POS, abusive, mean, all of those things. So it was almost like the way they described it when we were talking to him is that it's almost like it wasn't him anymore. Something else was in him. So we're thinking going into this, or at least I was thinking, well, maybe he's just got a bad attachment. I still at that point wasn't 100% convinced, just because I'm trying to debunk as much as I can. Went through, checked all the electrical to make sure there was no high EMFs. Kind of asked some probably personal questions of the family about whether or not he was into heavy drinking or taking any drugs or anything like that to kind of, which are standard questions that we generally ask in something like this on any investigation. Anyways, you're trying to rule out any mental illness, any addictions, alcohol, drugs, that type of things that are behavior altering, in order to make sure that those aren't the root cause of this situation, which none of it was. He was, they're all understanding. He was a decent man who just worked hard to provide for his family. The investigation, we saw and heard physical sounds, physical movements that had no explanation. Adrian, and he talks about this in his speech that he gives when he's a speaker. I think he titles it the other side of the paranormal investigation, the part that a lot of people don't talk about, how it affects the investigators. He saw a half of a full body apparition. So he saw half of an apparition. It wasn't the waist up, it was the waist down that he saw. So he basically saw a waist, lower torso, and legs is what he saw standing in the doorway. At the same time he saw that, we're talking to the matriarch of the family who lives in that house. And me and another investigator out on the front porch, we're all having a smoke break. And she starts getting very emotional, and she says, I can feel it coming. It's getting closer. And she kept saying, it's getting closer, it's getting closer. And then she looked up at us and she said, it's here. And me and the other investigator kind of looked at each other at that same exact moment that we hear Adrian say, get in here now. The wind, just in that small area, it's like a bomb cyclone. I mean, it just picked up in that one area. No other trees around the house were moving, no leaves, no blowing, nothing. But the items on the front porch were blowing off. Like if there was an ashtray that we were using, it got blown off. You could see the cherries on the end of the cigarettes really brighten from it's like somebody was blowing on it. That type of localized event. So we're like, we got to get in here. So we grab her up, go inside. And that's when Adrian tells us about the half body apparition that he saw and the door slamming. And he got it on audio. Didn't get it on video, but he got it on audio. The door opening, him saying, do you see that? Then he says, it's gone. Then you hear the door slam. Another investigation that I wasn't at the night after, this was a full weekend, Friday, Saturday nights. They're all in the house and they're talking in the kitchen. Now in the kitchen, there was one of the frying pan and pot holders that hung from the ceiling on the chains, and you hooked them up on, was there. And you hear they're talking, and you hear somebody say to the effect of, "Do you see that?" or "What is that?" And then you hear the investigator that was on the front porch with me the night before say, "I see it," and he stops, kind of like he can't believe what he's seeing type stops, and you hear, "Did you hear that ting that I just did?"
Yeah.
That was off my mug, but that's exactly what he heard, and he says, "It hit the pan." And everybody's like, "What hit the pan?" He said, "That light that I saw flew up and hit the pan and made that sound." And you can hear that sound on their audio from that night
Whoa.
them sitting around talking, because they had and I learned this from them, and it's very smart to do. Once you start an investigation, you walk into that house, even on a pre-investigation, you have your audio running from the time you walk in that door until the time you leave. That
Yep.
way you can make sure that you get any anomalies on audio. And to make a long story longer, that investigation that night, as I said, it affected everybody that was there. I got so bad, and my personality changed so much that I ended up getting divorced from my second wife. My own child won't talk to me, but on holidays she'll send me a text. And this is some 20 years later. It was horrible. Now, Adrian got a lot worse than I did. Fortunately, him and Tina didn't divorce. They came close, but they didn't. And he talks all about this. This is not anything that I'm saying that's out of school, because this is part of his presentation. I'm just relaying it from my perspective. But everybody had such a bad result out of that investigation personally in their personal lives, personally, emotional wise, personality wise. The gambit goes on and on. Every negative thing that you could possibly think of, short of somebody committing the unaliving themselves, it happened. It got to the point that finally, after 5 years, I brought myself enough internal fortitude and anger towards this thing that's been going on with my life that I drove by that house, and I stopped. I didn't drive to the house. I drove to the area of the house. Let me rephrase that. Stopped, got out of the car, and yelled at the top of my lungs, "I command you to leave me and go back whence you came." I mean, to the point tears were flowing down my face. I was that angry at this thing. And after I said that, and I said, "In Jesus' name, I command it." And I felt like the sun had come out. I felt this warmth about me, and I felt like a ton had been lifted off my shoulders. That this is the honest to God's truth. I mean, I'm shaking now thinking about it. That's how much that event, and then that release, that command to be released, affected my life. And it's a cautionary tale for anybody that does this. Make sure you're protected. Go into every investigation with your faith intact. Doesn't necessarily have to be Christianity, but I recommend it. Whether you're Catholic, any of these things, any religion that you have faith in, that you believe in a higher power with every ounce of your being, go into that investigation with that. There's actually, and I don't know if you met Terry Fox at the Paranormal Expo.
His episode, it's podcast time travel. The episode will already have aired by the time this one airs.
Okay, so Terry Fox is based here in Greenwood as well. He's a
I didn't know that. Okay, I did not know y'all were in the same town together.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a pastor, and he's fully accessible, and he knows the dangers.
Yes, he does.
And so he'll be the first one.
Next time you see Terry, tell him I said hi.
Oh, absolutely. I sure will. But you've got to go in with your faith intact and strong, because if you don't, what happened to me, what happened to everybody else on that investigation could happen to you. So there's my cautionary spiel about investigating the paranormal.
I'm going to piggyback off of that one real quick as well. I'm glad you brought that up, to be honest with you, because I was going to. So, this is for everybody out there. I mean, it's one thing. I mean, this is where I look at the TV shows do a lot of harm to the paranormal research field, to actual researchers. And to be honest with you guys, if you get, go explore, go have a good time. But there is a danger to this, and it's very real. If you've already listened to the Terry Fox episode, listen to this one, so many others, that when I go out and when I dig into the paranormal, before I leave, I say a prayer with the team, and I make certain that whatever is there stays there.
Yep.
It's not coming with me at all. And as you talked about how it affects you afterward, every time I do go on a paranormal, it does take me a couple of days to almost recharge.
Yeah.
Because even when I go out, on a cryptid investigation, it does take me a little bit to recharge as well from that, because of, and that's if we are encountering something. If I go out there and there's nothing there, then I'm fine. But if we go out and we encounter something, I mean, there just seems to be some sort of type of drain. And, I do all of my investigations and all my research based upon a Christian perspective, based upon my, upbringing as a Christian. So it's very important. I know that we were supposed to have gone to be with Chummy and the Spirits last week. Me and Jacob were going to go up there. They've already done their mortuary thing, and we're supposed to be a part of that. But the weather, obviously, we got 11 inches of sleet. Yeah, I was smart not to go. So I have holy water that I carry with me in the Jeep, just in case. And I was going to make Jacob carry the holy water through the whole place, to be honest with you, because Jacob has probably one of the biggest hearts of anybody you'll ever meet. I could call Jacob up at 3:00 in the morning, and he won't ask questions. He'll just be on his way.
Yeah.
So he's very empathetic, very empathetic, high empath. So my concern is when I take him to these paranormal places of something attaching to him because of that right there. So that's why I was going to make sure that he had the holy water.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
And I was going to pray over him to make sure that, because that's just, Jacob's that super great guy. He really is, I tease him on the show, and I give him a hard time in real life, but, my kids love him to death. I mean, my parents love him to death, and everybody, you can't help but meet Jacob and just not love him to death. So that's the reason why, and that's the thing too, though, like you said, you may be open to these things and unprepared to handle something.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it may not have been demonic, but it may have been something stupid, evil that just happened to cling on.
Yeah.
And that's what appears that these entities do. I don't know per se, because I'm not an expert by any means, but my theory is they will, if you're that type of person, and there's a lot more people out there than they realize that are that way, and they'll cling, and it will completely, and the goal is to ruin your life.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I come from a line of empaths. Now that doesn't mean you're psychic. It just means that you're open to everybody's emotions and the way they feel. And, you can sense it. You can also, when a normal person feels down about something, you are down 10 times more, or if you're happy, you're happier 10 times more, so that's what being an empath is. I come from,
I have to be careful, because if I get myself around negative people, it plays a toll on me physically, emotionally, mentally. I mean, all across the board. Now, if it's, happy-go-lucky, because life happens. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, bills come up. Life happens.
Yeah.
It does. Like I just got an email notification about my gas bill. Like, oh crap, I forgot to pay that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when we get done, I got to pay that. But bills happen.
Yeah.
So instead of going, oh man, that just ruined my day, I was to take my money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I'm like, okay, crap, I got to pay that.
Yep. That's exactly right. And I think because of me being empathic, and I come from, like I said, I come from a long line of them on my mom's side. That's what probably opened me up in this particular situation more so than somebody that's not. So when you're around, like you said, when you're around a negative energy, you feel it multiplied by a multitude. And it's something as strong as this thing was. It had that serious of an effect on me, which as well as everybody else. But I don't know to what extent. That's their business, not mine. Um, but the thing about it is, getting back to what we were talking about, you've got to have that edge of protection built up around you. Otherwise, it can happen to anybody. And
Yep. And a lot of people will say that when you have that protection, it's going to take away from the encounters. No, it's not.
No. Now, if anything, it may
No.
enhance the encounter, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Yep.
100% agree.
And that
100% agree.
That kind of leads me into the next story with the pictures.
Before we lead in, there's something you talked about before, and it jumped out at me, and I made a note. Of course, I just flipped my pen off the table. You talk about the wind blowing up, okay? How the wind picked up. So, all right. So far that I know of, I've talked to 3 people that have had strange weather encounters tied in with the paranormal. Okay, the first one was Tommy, my producer. Like his first show, when he came on and talked about what took place in Kentucky, he describes from inside the house, looking out the windows like a huge thunderstorm. To the point where he made a phone call like, hey, y'all be careful in the weather. Like, what weather?
Yeah.
He's like, it's raining. As soon as he walked outside, nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then the couple that I interviewed yesterday for Paranormal Triage, when they were moving out of the one house, he describes, the husband does, him and his buddy were getting his desk out, and this hailstorm just hit in the area around the house. He goes, you could see where the line was at, where it was hailing at, and where it wasn't hail at.
Yeah.
He goes, just right there. He goes, it wasn't big hail, probably a little pea-sized hail, if not smaller, that just happened to hit while they were right there. And now you talking about, the wind blowing, so strong, knocking everything off just in that localized little area. And I'm wondering, what's the cause and the tying-in for that? Because the house they described was pretty bad.
Yeah. I liken it to, for example, we're on the subject of Christianity. When Christ was on the cross, the instant that he died, there was so many severe weather events that happened at that instant, localized, mainly around where him and the other 2 were crucified. So it's almost to me like it's not a calling card, it's not an announcement, but the energy is so strong that it has an effect in that localized area of the weather. I mean, there's so much energy. The temperature changes would have to be astronomical. Everybody talks about, and I've experienced it myself, when you're in a room and something comes in, the temperature dropping rapidly and to a high degree, to the point to where you can see your breath.
Okay. I can't write it down, so I got to jump in and interrupt you. Okay, so now there's 4. I just remembered one. When I was a kid, me and my buddy rode out we found a cemetery because we came to Arkansas. Lived in Arkansas for a couple of years when I was a kid, and lived out in Maumelle. And there was an old cemetery out there that was by Lake Willistine. It's now neighborhoods all around it. They got it gated and protected now, but back in '86, it wasn't that way. We would ride our bikes there, and we rode our bikes there one day, and 2 of the graves have been dug up. During the day, 2 kids, 6th, 7th grade, and 8th, 9th grade were our ages at the time. And we were sitting there. We have to get this. Remember, '86, so the big satanic panic going on through the '80s, and we're discussing Satanism, and the wind picked up, and we were like, okay, we shut up and the wind died.
Yeah.
And we kind of shrugged it off and we started talking again. The wind picked up and right in front of us, 3 trees just went, boom, boom, boom. Just fell. Boom, 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 fell down.
Yeah.
It not a domino, but away from us.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. You never saw 2 kids jump up on their bikes and pedal the hell out of there quick.
Well, you're right.
I just remembered that.
And what leads me to believe on that, and this is just from things that I've experienced and studies that I've done, as far as reading and researching. The fact of the way that you mentioned that the trees, the way they fell, and they fell away from you towards the outside of the cemetery. That was something inside the cemetery preventing something from outside the cemetery coming to you kids.
Oh.
Because y'all were talking about the devil.
Yeah.
So you were basically, without knowing it,
inviting him in.
So whatever was in that, and cemeteries are hallowed ground,
Yeah.
And so, what better way to demonstrate hallowed ground than something pushing away from the cemetery rather than pushing into?
That's crazy scary. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
But I just remembered it. It's one of those stories that it's so quick. It's a short little story to where it's, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's me and my buddy Jason. And I could probably call him on the phone. He'd remember this day, I'm sure, if I brought it up. But it just seemed like one of those memories are just buried, in the back of your brain.
Yeah.
And so as we were talking about the weather situation and everything, I was like, oh yeah, wait a minute. I had that one encounter. So, and I think that's important for us to talk about these things too, though, because it does give people a chance to be able to look back and go, whoa, wait, that happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how we're going to get to the bottom of some of these things. So yeah, but that's a good, I never thought of that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I try to find logic in illogical events. And to me, that would be the most logical thing that occurred, that something was in that cemetery protecting the innocence of the children against something that they inadvertently were calling in.
Yeah, it was a family plot cemetery where they had a whole family, including the little ones.
Yeah. Yeah. So
that were buried there.
I'm guaranteeing you right now that the parents that were buried there with the little children were protecting these other children.
Wow, that's crazy. Ugh, gives me chills. Gives me chills.
Well,
it does.
I get chills too much myself.
All right. We're getting some deep stuff here. Why don't you and me take a quick break? We'll jump right back into it again. How's that sound?
Absolutely.
All right.
Buddy, unfortunately, the second part of Joe's interview ended up becoming corrupted. It's kind of crazy how whenever we're doing these interviews and stuff, and unfortunately, we didn't catch it till we're getting ready to drop the episode for you guys. So, however, Joe will be back on. He will be coming back at another date. And he will continue his wonderful investigations and research, and he's going to be more than happy to share them with everybody. So thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Drunken Cryptids. And make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for all y'all's support. And again, sometimes it's crazy how whenever we start digging into some of these topics, we get technical difficulties. So thanks for enjoying it with us. I appreciate everybody. Until next time. Here's the miss and a good beer. Y'all stay safe out there.
Anything